Hi, I'm Mark Dross. Happy Valentine's Day. Today we're in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Now, as to the matters of which you wrote me, it is well, and by that I mean advantageous, expedient, profitable, and wholesome, for a man not to touch a woman, to cohabit with her, but to remain unmarried. But because of the temptation to impurity and to avoid immorality, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. The husband should give to his wife her conjugal rights, goodwill, kindness, and what is due her as his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. For the wife does not have exclusive authority and control over her own body, but the husband has his rights. Likewise, also the husband does not have exclusive authority and control over his body, but the wife has her rights. Do not refuse and deprive and defraud each other of your due marital rights, except perhaps by mutual consent for a time, so that you may devote yourselves unhindered to prayer. But afterwards resume marital relations, lest Satan tempt you to sin through your lack of restraint of sexual desire. Exodus chapter 19, verse 15. But I am saying this more as a matter of permission and concession, not as a command or regulation. I wish that all men were like I myself am in the matter of self-control, but each has his own special gift from God, one of this kind and one of another. But to the unmarried people and to the widows I declare that it is well, good, advantageous, expedient, and wholesome for them to remain single, even as I do. But if you have not self-control, restraint of their passions, they should marry. For it is better to marry than to be aflame with passion and tortured continually with ungratified desire. But to the married people I give charge, not I but the Lord, that the wife is not to separate from her husband. But if she does separate from and divorce him, let her remain single or else be reconciled to her husband. And I charge the husband also that he should not put away or divorce his wife. To the rest I declare, I, not the Lord, for Jesus did not discuss this, that if any brother has a wife who does not believe in Christ and she consents to live with him, he should not leave or divorce her. But if any woman has an unbelieving husband and he consents to live with her, she should not leave or divorce him. For the unbelieving husband is set apart, separated, withdrawn from heathen contamination, and affiliated with the Christian people by union with his consecrated, set-apart wife. And the unbelieving wife is set apart and separated through union with her consecrated husband. Otherwise, your children would be unclean, unblessed heathen, outside the Christian covenant. But as it is, they are prepared for God, pure and clean. But if the unbelieving partner actually leaves, let him do so. In such cases, the remaining brother or sister is not morally bound, but God has called us to peace. For wife, how can you be sure of converting and saving your husband? Husband, how can you be sure of converting and saving your wife? Only let each one seek to conduct himself and regulate his affairs so as to lead the life which the Lord has allotted and imparted to him, into which God has invited and summoned him. This is my order in all the churches. Was anyone at the time of his summons from God already circumcised? Let him not seek to remove the evidence of circumcision. Was anyone at the time God called him uncircumcised? Let him not be circumcised. For circumcision is nothing and counts for nothing, neither does uncircumcision. But what counts is keeping the commandments of God. Everyone should remain after God calls him in the station or condition of life in which the summons found him. Were you a slave when you were called? Do not let that trouble you. But if you are able to gain your freedom, avail yourself of the opportunity. For he who as a slave was summoned in to union with the Lord is a freed man of the Lord, just as he who was free when he was called is a bondservant of Christ, the Messiah. You were bought with a price, purchased with a preciousness, and paid for by Christ. Then do not yield yourselves up to become in your own estimation slaves to men, but consider yourselves slaves to Christ. So, brethren, in whatever station or state or condition of life each one was when he was called, there let him continue with and close to God. Now, concerning the virgins, the marriageable maidens, I have no command of the Lord, but I give my opinion and advice as one who by the Lord's mercy is rendered trustworthy and faithful. I think then, because of the impending distress that is even now setting in, it is well expedient, profitable, and wholesome for a person to remain as he or she is. Are you bound to a wife? Do not seek to be free. Are you free from a wife? Do not seek a wife. But if you do marry, you do not sin in doing so, and if a virgin marries, she does not sin in doing so. Yet those who marry will have physical and earthly troubles, and I would like to spare you that. I mean, brethren, the appointed time has been winding down, and it has grown very short. From now on, let even those who have wives be as if they had none. And those who weep and mourn as though they were not weeping and mourning, and those who rejoice as though they were not rejoicing, and those who buy as though they did not possess anything. And those who deal with this world, overusing the enjoyments of this life, as though they were not absorbed by it and as if they had no dealings with it. For the outward form of this world, the present world order, is passing away. My desire is to have you free from all anxiety and distressing care. The unmarried man is anxious about the things of the Lord, how he may please the Lord. But the married man is anxious about worldly matters, how he may please his wife. And he is drawn in diverging directions, his interests are divided, and he is distracted from his devotion to God. And the unmarried woman or girl is concerned and anxious about the matters of the Lord, how to be wholly separated and set apart in body and spirit. But the married woman has her cares centered in earthly affairs, how she may please her husband. Now I say this for your own welfare and profit, not to put a halter of restraint upon you, but to promote what is seemly and in good order, and to secure your undistracted and undivided devotion to the Lord. But if any man thinks that he is not acting properly toward and in regard to his virgin, that he is preparing disgrace for her or incurring reproach, in case she is passing the bloom of her youth, and if there is need for it, let him do what to him seems right. He does not sin, let him marry. But whoever is firmly established in his heart, strong in mind and purpose, not being forced by necessity, but having control over his own will and desire, and has resolved this in his heart to keep his own virginity, he is doing well. So also then he, the father who gives his virgin, his daughter, in marriage does well, and he, the father who does not give her in marriage, does better. A wife is bound to her husband by law as long as he lives. If the husband dies, she is free to be married to whom she will, only provided that he too is in the Lord. But in my opinion, a widow is happier, more blessed, and to be envied if she does not remarry. And also I think I have the Spirit of God.